kicking off the list, number 10, Zombie She-Hulk. First appearing in Marvel Zombies Dead Days, issue number 1 back in 2007, the story takes place on Earth 2149 after a zombie plague, which you may have guessed by now just based off the name. Now this comic is super dark and gory. The zombie runs give us a fun variation of the Avengers, especially Jen Walters. See, when Jen first arrived at the Avengers mansion after the Avengers Assemble call, she was shocked to find that Earth's mightiest heroes have become Earth's munchiest heroes, no thanks to a plague. Now it wasn't long at all before Jen herself was zombified, and then she got this fantastic appetite. Yeah, she took a bite or 6 out of Franklin Richards and his sister Valeria. So you can imagine the look on the Fantastic Four's face when they returned. They weren't too jazzed, especially Sue Storm. And before we go on with this list of incredible Hulks, guys, if you want to go ahead and Hulk smash that like button, that would be great. It really goes a long way for our channel here. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back to this list. Number 9, Venom Hulk. Okay, this next one isn't around too long in the comics, but maybe that's a good thing. Venom Hulk is terrifying, and it all goes down in the 1989 What If series, issue 4. It shows us what exactly would happen if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man. It's a pretty scary alternative to if the Fantastic Four hadn't been able to separate Peter and the suit originally. Now it gets ugly pretty quickly, and the other Avengers are called upon to try and stop Peter from causing irreversible damage. Doctor Strange hurls spells at him for hours, and it's still no use. Now it's no surprise that when the Hulk comes in to start smashing, the symbiote sees his power and it wants that power. It's like, well, this guy's pretty jacked. And then when it comes into contact with the Hulk, this behemoth is born. So finally Thor comes around to hopefully try and end this disaster of a situation, but he's greeted by a creature containing the powers of both Spider-Man and the Hulk. Good game, guys. Number 8, Captain Universe Hulk. This one is short and sweet. Captain Universe isn't a person, per se, despite how the name sounds. It's the uni-power, which is an aspect of the Enigma Force. It's a manifestation of the universe itself, it's sentient, and it's on the hunt for whoever is in ultimate danger. It bonds with them. And after we just heard with Venom Hulk, it's safe to say that we're in for another bonding treat of some sorts. The Unipower has bonded with Daredevil X-23, and when Banner accidentally steps on a bear trap in Captain Universe in the Hulk issue 1, he bonds with the Unipower in order to survive the cold and dangerous landscapes. Imagine just stepping on a bear trap and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm the Unipower, you need me, trust me. You're like, oh, this day sucks. Number 7, Lizard Hulk. Lizard Hulk is so much fun. Okay, let's talk about it. He comes from Earth 19919. His name is Robert Banner, and he of course has a similar origin that we're most familiar with when it comes to the Hulk. Only he was infected by the spider virus in Spider Island issue 1, released back in 2015. So now he's the Hulk, but he's got extra arms, and that means he's even more powerful. How wonderful! The Spider Queen is standing tall over Manhattan, with the residents of New York City turning into spiders. So for our heroes, it's probably best if they switch to a different animal's DNA, to avoid the whole mind control Spider Queen situation. So Captain America gets a hairy upgrade, and then the Hulk gets paired with some lizard DNA, resulting in a weird but exciting showdown. It's like Godzilla meets Ganon meets Bruce Banner. It's just a hot mess. Number 6, Nerd Hulk, aka Robert Banner. He made his first appearance in the Ultimates with Avengers issue 3. Nerd Hulk sounds like a version of the Hulk that we saw from Endgame, but there's more to it. See, this Hulk is actually referred to as Vampire King, which sounds interesting, but I'll get to that in a second. So he was a clone originally created by Stark's older brother, Gregory Stark. Now the clone has all the smarts and it has the Hulk's strength, but it lacked the anger, which Captain America wasn't really a fan of. See, Cap was also able to take him down easily, so it's clear you need to have anger in order to be the Hulk completely. So when Nerd Hulk is sent to take on Red Skull, he's actually able to crush the Cosmic Cube. Only this was an illusion and the Red Skull was able to blast Nerd Hulk away. So now we need an upgrade. We need to change something up. We can't have the Hulk just getting blasted away every time there's a mission. We needed some anger in there so our clone Robert can pull his weight, literally. So he wasn't active for a while after this point. He was even denied when he asked to rejoin the team after they took on Ghost Rider. Poor Robert. So he traveled to New York City where there just happened to be a vampire outbreak. So now he's Team Edward, vampire and all. He's working for the vamp leader referred to as Anthony. So Banner ended up disagreeing with his leadership and took him out of the picture, and he actually took his spot. So now, Nerd Vampire Hulk was the new leader of the vampires, which is pretty sweet. Something we're probably not going to get on screen, but it's nice to imagine.
Number 5. Hulk Walters. On Spider-Gwen's alternate Earth of Earth 65, Jennifer Walters is a pro wrestler. She doesn't have any superpowers, she just loves painting herself green, being strong, and wrestling. The weird thing is that she chooses to stay green all the time, even when she's not wrestling. Which leaves you wondering until in Spider-Gwen Volume 2 issue 33, when she confessed to painting her skin green and that the way that she chooses to appear has always felt more her, and it actually took her a while to come to terms with the fact that she pretty much just always wanted to be like a green giant. She also ends up as Gwen's defense lawyer in a trial against her in regards to crimes she committed while in her Spider-Woman guise. It's unclear though whether this version of Jennifer Walters is actually a lawyer in the same capacity as her 616 counterpart, as we only really see her referred to as a pro wrestler, but yet she represents Gwen in a court of law, so I don't know, maybe in that universe wrestlers are also lawyers, so that's just like a go, that's just a thing that happens. Number 4. Future She-Hulk. This version of She-Hulk comes to us from the alternate Earth of 9939, whose history is very confusing and wrapped up in a lot of timey-wimey stuff, but I'll do my best to explain. Okay, here goes. Earth 9939 is basically an alternate future of Earth 616, which came about after Baron Strucker V of Earth 8410, aka Charnel, was able to travel back in time to the past of Earth 616 and successfully defeat most of its heroes. She-Hulk is one of the heroes who survived and lives in this futuristic, post-apocalyptic techno world. She ends up having a relationship with Rhino, and when the heroes are given the opportunity to go back in time to defeat Charnel to save the world and prevent the very future that they came from, She-Hulk takes the leap. She ends up dying in the final battle against Charnel, but she tried at least, she tried. Number 3. Lyra. Lyra is the daughter of Thundra of Earth 8009 and the Hulk of Earth 616. Thundra has been sent to Earth 616 to find its greatest warrior and ended up in a fight with Hulk. Thundra fought Hulk and ended up explaining to him the issues of her world and how the society of women she came from needed some assistance in keeping the bands of men who would attack them at bay. During this confession, Thundra ended up getting close enough to kiss the Hulk, allowing her to steal some of his DNA via the kiss. From this DNA and her own, Lyra was born. She would also end up being sent to Earth 616, but this time in search of a worthy mate to breed with after the cradle, that is the incubators used to create life on her world, had broken down. She would later go on to find the parts needed to actually just fix the cradle and buried them so that her own Earth, which was an alternate future of this one, might retrieve them later. Lyra would then end up staying on Earth 616 and become an agent of armor and friend to Jennifer Walters. Number 2. Jennifer Walters Alpha. This version of She-Hulk of Earth 721 would end up on Earth 616 after becoming bored of her own universe and offered a vacation on Earth B, aka Earth 616. You see, on Earth A, aka Earth 721, there are no superpowered beings, and a scientist ended up figuring out about the existence of an alternate universe which they call Earth B, where superheroes exist and where some residents of Earth A have superpowers. They moved through a portal which granted them the powers of their Earth B counterparts, as they were transported to that alternate reality. After having some fun and sleeping with Juggernaut, this alternate She-Hulk ends up getting found out, as the current 616 She-Hulk is unable to transform due to nanites that Stark had implanted in her, which caused her to lose her powers at the time. These two She-Hulks talk it out. She-Hulk of Earth 721 is taken in with a slew of other Earth A counterparts, or alphas as they're referred to. In the end, they're all made to return to their Earth, and after not being sure if she would actually get to return to her Earth, this alternate Jennifer Walters is happy to return to her life, where we also found out that she's married to Jen's friend, Pug. Number 1. Red She-Hulk. Red She-Hulk first made her comic book appearance in Hulk Volume 2, issue 15 in 2009. The character of Betty Ross was originally Bruce Banner's one true love in the comics, and the daughter of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, one of Hulk's main enemies after Thunderbolt underwent a transformation that turned him into the Red Hulk, and to be honest, even a little bit before that, as a man never really approved of his daughter dating the Hulk. Betty became the Red She-Hulk after her father begged his current allies during this time as Red Hulk to bring her back to life. The leader and MODOK then brought her back after her death. She was resurrected and underwent the same process as her father, thus transforming her into Red She-Hulk. She is often presented as an anti-hero and has spent time working alongside the Defenders. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed learning more about all the different versions of She-Hulk. Do you have a favorite alternate? Who do you think is better, Red She-Hulk or Green She-Hulk? What other colors of She-Hulk do we need? What's next after Red? I personally want a rainbow She-Hulk. Instead of raging when angry, their joy would make them stronger and it would make them rage harder, just like crushing people with like epic dance parties.
Number 10. The Hulk. The story we're most familiar with is one that I must start with. With skin that is impenetrable to just about anything and super bad super strength, the Incredible Hulk is a force you don't want in any kind of way. Created by the late Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, the Hulk is created when Bruce Banner is accidentally exposed to a gamma bomb. Making his first debut in the Incredible Hulk #1 in 1962, we've seen many different variations of the big green guy, portrayed by actors such as Lou Ferrigno, Eric Bana, Edward Norton, and most notably Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo!
He gets stronger the more angry you make him, which makes fighting this guy a really tough time. He even lifted an entire island in Secret Wars. An island. Who do you guys think played Bruce Banner the best in the movies, by the way? Let us know in the comments. We're curious over here. Number 9. She-Hulk. Now, of course, we have to include Banner's cousin, Jennifer Walters. So, while on the verge of death, Bruce Banner gave Jennifer a very small transfusion of Hulk's blood to save her life. What a great cousin. All my cousins do is comment how lame my selfies are on Facebook. The transfusion gave her a very mild version of the Hulk's powers. So yes, She-Hulk is green, and yes, she gets stronger the angrier she gets, but she can change whenever she wants. She's the Hulk, but she still has a hand on the wheel, basically. Now, there are times where she gets a bit too angry and can't control herself, but most of the time, she knows what she's doing. Tatiana Mason Lee will play She-Hulk in her upcoming series on Disney+, set to be released in 2022, and we're all looking forward to that. I know it's gonna be great. Number 8. Doc Green. So after Hulk had gotten shot in the head by the Ancient Order of the Shield, Tony Stark came in yet again to save the day. How, you ask? Well, he used his Extremis virus and injected it into the Hulk to undo damage from the bullet. Not a bad idea, Stark, not a bad idea. We'll give you that. The only side effect was the brand new genius personality for the green guy. That's right, the Hulk had now acquired Banner's smarts. So the next logical step for Doc Green was to create a serum that strips the powers from the other Hulks, because he didn't want there to be any others like him, especially being smart and all. He knew it wasn't a good idea. Eventually the virus had gotten removed and Doc Green reverted back into the Hulk. Thank God. I feel like we don't need a smart Hulk. Like Valkyrie said in Endgame, I think I liked you better either of the other ways. She's on to something. 7. Savage She-Hulk. She's the daughter of Hulk and Thundra, so you already know we gotta include her in this list. She's a very unique version of the hero. For starters, she doesn't get stronger when she gets angry. Instead, she becomes more powerful the more calm she is. That'd be a strange sight to see. Well, I'm going to kill you now. That's wild. So where did these powers come from? Well, when Thundra went back in time, she fought the Hulk. But then the two became friends by the end of it and even shared a kiss. How lovely. So once back in her own timeline, she used the leftover Hulk DNA, added it to her DNA, and then poof, you have Lyra, the savage She-Hulk. Number 6. Maestro. Okay, remember in Avengers Endgame when Scott Lang tests out the quantum tunnel? He goes from being an adult to an old man to a baby back to an adult. It's actually a pretty comical scene, but what if one of the other Avengers went in? Like, what if you aged the Hulk? Well, making his first appearance in a vision in the Incredible Hulk Volume 2 issue 401, Maestro was the main antagonist in the Incredible Hulk Future Imperfect. The story takes place about 100 or so years in the future after a nuclear war has put the planet close to extinction. So an alternate version of the Hulk, Maestro, had been absorbing all the nuclear radiation the entire time and ended up becoming the strongest thing on the planet. Massive increases in strength and anger, plus the brains of Banner made him arguably unstoppable. I would love to see this version of Hulk on the big screen. In fact, I'd love to see an old version of pretty much any of the Avengers. Not just the scene with old Cap, because you know, then I'll cry. Again. Oh, speaking of Old Man Hulk.
Number 5. Bruce Banner, Earth 95-91. In the Marvel Universe, scientific accidents tend to lead to fabulous powers. However, in the real world, a scientific accident typically leads to serious injury or even death. After all, if a regular person were caught in the explosion of a gamma bomb, they definitely wouldn't gain green skin and super strength. Odds are they would just get probably really sick and die. With that in mind, let's meet Bruce Banner from the miniseries Ruins. Written by Warren Ellis, Ruins is a dystopian twist on the Marvel Universe, where everything that can and does go wrong goes wrong. In this twist on the classic origin story, Rick Jones is a morphine addict that wandered into the testing site of a gamma bomb. The heroic Bruce Banner rushes to save him and is caught in the blast of the bomb, but instead of becoming the Jade Giant, Bruce Banner is consumed with a mess of green tumors which tear Banner apart from the inside out. Much like the Peter Parker of this universe, Banner is currently believed to be held captive by the CIA for research purposes. Give the storyline a read for yourself in 1995's Ruins #1. It answers a lot of questions that I personally didn't know I wanted the answers to. Number 4. Hulk Earth 2081. After a war which ended in a violent nuclear holocaust that wiped out all life on Earth, wanting to get away from the few remaining survivors, would return to the Gamma Cave in New Mexico, where he'd seal himself off with a boulder. Many years later, Bruce would free himself from his imprisonment by a recorder, who was sent to record the demise of humanity at the request of a number of races. Though Bruce at first assumed they wanted to learn from humanity's mistakes, the recorder then informed him that they just wanted to make sure that they were all actually dead. Though Bruce at first refused to believe that everyone was dead, asking if it was some kind of joke, he soon came to accept it. He would then ask the recorder if he was going to kill him as well to, be sure. And the recorder then asked Bruce if he wanted to die, to which Bruce then responded, no, why would I want that? Bruce spent the next several years wandering across the ruins of the old cities trying to remember what he could of the old world. Later, Bruce suffered a painful heart attack, and how much his punishment resembles that of Prometheus, the last Titan, condemned to stay forever alive even while animals devoured him. As he died, the Hulk's persona arose in his mind. Banner would plead with the Hulk, begging him to simply let go of his conflicts, claiming that they were going to a paradise where all their dead friends were, where they could be happy. Hulk threw away his suggestion, thinking it was a trick, and because in his eyes, friends had always betrayed him. With Banner completely gone, the Hulk was left completely alone in an empty world. Check out this one-shot storyline in 2002's Incredible Hulk: The End. Number 3. Zombie Hulk. That's right, it's Jack talking about the Zombieverse once again, my big favorite. In the world of Marvel Zombies, the Hulk is the hungriest one there is. After an unnamed hero driven by the hunger crashes on Earth and infects the Avengers with a zombie virus, the world spirals into a zombie apocalypse. Once valiant heroes resort to stomach-churning acts to fulfill their craving for human flesh, and the world becomes a battle for the strongest for scarce resources. A roaming band of zombies composed of, or I guess decomposed since they're zombies, of former heroes such as Spider-Man and Wolverine, kill and eat their way across the planet with a zombified Hulk serving as the Twisted Team's muscle. The group eventually cross paths with the Silver Surfer, who is subsequently brutally killed by the Hulk and eaten by the group, imbuing the zombies with the cosmic power, allowing the former heroes to take to the stars to eat their way across the galaxy. 40 years later, Hulk returns to the Earth to find a colony of human survivors in New York, known as New Wakanda. After Giant Man declared a plan to create a breeding program to have food for eternity, Spider-Man and Luke Cage rebelled and fought Tony and the others. A force field was activated, protecting Black Panther's stronghold and the survivors, but sealed Gladiator and an unconscious Bruce Banner inside and cut Luke Cage in half. Hulk eventually escapes, and after eating Reynolds, Hulk transformed back into Bruce and voluntarily was eaten by the zombies so that he could cause no more damage to anyone. You all already know that this is one of my favorite universes, so check out Zombie Hulk for yourself, starting with his first appearance in Marvel Zombies Dead Days number 1. Number 2. Maestro. While the Hulk has traditionally served as a tragic anti-hero, the supervillain known as the Maestro serves as a reminder that the Hulk is really only one bad day away from becoming the most dangerous foe mankind has ever encountered. This alternate future version of the Hulk hails from a Earth ravaged by nuclear war. Driven mad by the death of his friends and from continued exposure to radiation, the Hulk christens himself the Maestro and appoints himself the ruler of this war-torn dystopia. Retaining the intelligence of Bruce Banner, but with the enhanced strength brought on from the radiation, the Maestro rules unopposed, splitting his time between torturing those who have crossed him and admiring his trophy room filled with the weapons and costumes of his fallen comrades. When the modern day Hulk is sent forward in time, he ends up clashing with his future self, eventually triumphing over the cocky Maestro. While the Maestro hails from a possible future, the Hulk lives in constant fear that one bad move could put him on the path to becoming this tyrannical ruler. Fast forward through some pretty cool events that you should definitely read for yourself, and we see the Maestro go up against Logan, who unsheathed his claws and just decapitates him. Give the story a read for yourself, starting with 2017's Old Man Logan, Volume 2, number 25. And number 1, Pappy Banner. This version makes me so uncomfortable, it's not even funny. So similar to his 616 counterpart, Bruce Banner of Earth 21,923 began as a hero, or as much of a hero that the Hulk can be. No one really knows how or why or when, but Bruce Banner had a very drastic shift in personality and became a villain, many believing it to be probably because of the prolonged exposure to radiation. When the villains took over in this alternate world, Banner joined in on the hero slaughter, eliminating Thor and so many others. Banner later took over a large portion of California and Nevada as his own and named it Hulkland. He also made the decision to mate with his first cousin She-Hulk and sired a group of inbred Hulks called the Hulk Gang. Through intimidation alone, they forced people living there to pay rent or face having their property taken and even death. One of the people that was extorted was Logan, who had become a pacifist at the time. Then one day, the Hulk gang killed Logan's family, causing him to abandon his pacifist beliefs. And in anger, Logan killed almost the entire Hulk gang and its leader, Pappy Banner.
Number 10. Claw. Claw is actually an alternate persona of the Hulk that resides within the character in the reality of Earth 616. So not an alternate in terms of being from another world or reality, but still an alternate in terms of him being a very different version of the character than what we're used to seeing. Claw even looks very different to the Hulk. When it comes to the heroic version we're used to seeing and reading in the comics, Claw couldn't be more different. He is basically the polar opposite, being malicious, vicious, and evil-minded in nature and behavior. And if you're like, well, the Hulk is he can be pretty bad sometimes. He's like got a heart of gold though, the Hulk. The Hulk's lovely. Number 9. Age of Apocalypse. In the reality of Earth 295, aka Age of Apocalypse, Bruce Banner never saved Rick Jones from the Gamma Bomb test in order to become the Hulk. Instead, he became the Thing as a result of experimenting on himself after Apocalypse had conquered the Earth. Banner with General Thaddeus Ross was part of humanity's last stand. He would end up betraying the Human High Council and pledge his loyalty to Mikhail in exchange for test subjects. Banner would then discover how to transform into the giant grey super strong beast known as the Thing, and would eventually kind of flip sides once more to protect the humans from a gamma bomb that he himself had designed. Following this, he would become green and end up as Apocalypse's captive. And friends, before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, be sure to show us by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Starman. Starman is an alternate version of the Hulk who comes to us from the Marvel What If story from issue 91 of the second series. In this story, we get to see a version of the Hulk where it is the alternate monstrous persona known here as Starman that is actually the kind, gentle, heroic side of this character, and Bruce Banner himself, who is actually the true monster. He's the not so good side of the character, the villain side. Bruce Banner here is a colonel who is obsessed with his job developing weapons for the military. A lot of the rage that he lives with ends up being taken out on his wife and his romantic partner, Betty Ross, to the point that she tries to in fact get out of the relationship, talking to her father about it, but her father basically dismisses her pleas. In the end, Starman is unable to help Betty, who is committed to a mental health facility by Doc Samson, after Colonel Banner threatens him. Doc Samson was actually gonna try to help Betty, but it didn't work out. It's such a sad, awful story, but such a strange version of the Hulk as well. Starman. Number 7. Hulkbot 3000. The Hulkbot 3000 was kind of a roundabout invention of Tony Stark's. He created the builder bot group known as the Smiths, which in turn made Hulkbot. Hulkbot 3000 was actually created to test a crown that could alter a person's behavior, which was actually created in the hopes of curing Tony's alcoholism. True story. Though he claimed the crown was being developed in order to help with the Hulk's often raging personality. What's really odd about Hulkbot though, other than the creation's purpose for existing, is that Hulkbot 3000 is only one of the many different robot versions of the Hulk to exist in the comics, and even in the 616 universe. Like, there have been a lot of Robo-Hulks. I could probably do a top 10 list on robot Hulks. Number 6. Breaker Apart. Also known as the Breaker of Worlds, this is a version of the Hulk belonging to an alternate future that doesn't yet have an official number, but was given the temporary reality number of Earth 781 for now. So we'll just have that number here because you never know, it could become official. He makes his first appearance in the Immortal Hulk series in issue 20, but wouldn't be given the name Breaker Apart until issue 25. In this alternate future, Hulk ends up surviving until the end of the universe due to his immortality. He ends up being possessed, however, by the One Below All and killing some of his universe's most powerful beings, including Galactus and Franklin Richards. Breaker Apart later garners the attention of the sentience of the universe, who looks to merge with him in order to create the beginning of a new universe or cosmos. This is probably also one of the most powerful alternate versions of the Hulk because he basically becomes like Galactus. Evil Galactus? Galactus already is pretty evil, I guess. Galactus to me is neutral. He's just hungry. He's cool.
Number 5. The End Hulk. Written by Peter David, The Incredible Hulk The End shows us what Bruce Banner would look like after the rest of the world has fallen into pieces. In a one-shot released back in 2002, we find Bruce Banner as the last inhabitant of Earth. After the events of a nuclear holocaust, Banner was the only being that was physically able to survive. I mean, the story opens up with Banner talking to a vidbot. A vidbot is a floating camera that's always hovering 10 feet away from him. It found Banner when it was in the midst of confirming the eradication of humans. Now it just follows him around. Kind of like that cameraman in Super Mario 64. He's like on his little cloud, so cute. So, Banner and the Hulk are on different levels at this point. The Hulk still wants to be a badass and fight stuff, but Bruce is done, man. He looks around him, he sees nothing. He sees giant mutated cockroaches. He actually attempts multiple times, but the Hulk will not let him die. It's kind of similar to what we heard in Avengers back in 2012, the first Avengers. Banner says to the group that he tried putting a bullet in his mouth and that the green guy spit it out. So this issue, we really get an idea for it if that had lasted until the very end. Quite dark. Number 4, Zombie Hulk. Okay, so this one I hope we actually never have to see because it's terrifying. In the series Marvel Zombies, the Hulk is, well, yeah, he's a zombie. So in this version, he's still a strong giant. However, because he's not alive technically, he doesn't regenerate every time he gets injured. He also doesn't need to get angry in order to transform from the zombie Bruce Banner. He actually transforms when he's hungry. If you're not you and you're hungry, Banner, I think you need a Snickers or a neighbor, whatever you like to eat. One of those two, we'll get you set up. Silver Surfer, for instance, gets his head bitten off, like Ozzy Osbourne style, by this zombified Hulk. You gotta check it out. Number 3, Robbie Banner. Okay, so on Earth 138, this punk rock version of the Hulk teams up with Spider-Man. Well, Spider-Punk rather. And in order to become the Hulk, he doesn't need to get angry, he doesn't need to eat flesh. Instead, he just needs to blast atomic bomb music. Okay. So at one point he helped Spider-Punk fight the UFOs at the Hellfire Club. And this version is wild. Like, imagine if Bruce Banner in the MCU had to blast Imagine Dragons before fighting Ultron. That'd be amazing. God, I'd pay for that. So in this storyline, when Kang and the Conglomerates started attacking, Robbie just listened to the tape and promptly turned into the Hulk and helped Spider-Punk fight him. Number 2, Breaker of Worlds Hulk. So eventually, the One Below All destroys Bruce's soul, and then they themselves possess the body of the Hulk. After that, oh man, just straight up trouble. They went on to kill Franklin Richards, Galactus, Mr. Immortal, irony at its finest right there, and it kept killing until it was the last living thing in the universe. Why is this always a goal, man? Like, I would be so bored. At least keep a handful of entertainers alive. Like, if we only had Will Smith, we'd be fine. Movies, music, cringy Instagram posts, he could do it all.
Yeah. It's rewind time.
In the 9th Cosmos, the One Below All went from having the Hulk's powers and upgraded them, yet again, to a Galactus-like entity called the Breaker of Worlds. Sounds rather fitting if you ask me. Finally, my personal favorite of this list, Infernal Hulk. Oh, I hope we see this one soon. So in an alternate reality where Bruce Banner and the Hulk had separated, and it does happen quite often, Bruce ended up becoming the new Sorcerer Supreme. But the Hulk rather, oh, he gets cast into hell. Talk about getting the shit out of the deal. I mean, he did all right though in hell. He ended up becoming a demon eventually after being surrounded with all those, well, demons down there. What does he do? Well, he escapes, of course. Who doesn't want a demon Hulk running around? Everybody. The answer's everybody. The solution was simple and well executed. Trick Infernal Hulk into shattering the eye of Agamotto. And once that happened, well, he was thrown back into hell. Good. Go back where you belong, scary man.
Son of a ball, why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Number 10, She-Hulk. Does not sound as nice as She-Hulk. She-Hulk. In the short comic series Abominations, She-Hulk is known as She-Hulk. On this alternate Earth, Hulk and the Abomination find themselves further mutated in the aftermath of a nuclear war. The Hulk becomes a mad tyrant and aims to take over the world, adopting the name Maestro. She-Hulk and Abomination attempt to team up to stop him, and they get close, but ultimately they fail, leaving She-Hulk to be locked up in a sarcophagus for 7 years, until Emil finds her again. He aims to make her his bride, but when she awakes, she kinda refuses the Abomination's advances. She-Hulk ends up discovering that Maestro conceived a child with a woman named Betty 6. Determined to put an end to his line, she hunts down Betty 6, but before she can kill the newborn infant in Betty's arms, she considers that she herself has become a monster. And then She-Hulk is killed. What a poignant moment of reflection, and then boom, dead. Number 9, Hydra Queen. I made that sound a lot more fun than it is. Hydra Queen. On the alternate Earth of 9997 in the Earth X series, She-Hulk was infected by Norman Osborn's Hydra creatures, which he created to eliminate all the powerful people who opposed his presidency. Take that, people. After She-Hulk's death, her body was possessed by the Hydra Queen, who led the Hydra army in eliminating S.H.I.E.L.D. and attempting to find other hosts who would join their collective. She-Hulk's spirit would remain remain in the realm of the dead until she assisted Mar-Vell and was rewarded by being moved to a plane called Paradise, where she was given the power to create her own personal perfect fantasy world. Seems like a fair reward. Number 8. Zombieverse. She-Hulk was transformed into a zombie when she answered an Avengers Assemble call at the Avengers Mansion. The call itself was a trap, and She-Hulk found herself attacked, ravaged, and later infected and transformed by her fellow Avengers. Zombie Avengers. The Fantastic Four had locked Reed Richards and Sue Storm's children, Valeria and Franklin, safely away in the Baxter Building, where no harm was expected to come to them. However, they seem to have forgotten that She-Hulk had once been part of the team and had their codes. They really should have probably changed them just regardless of this fact, as the FF have had many additional rotating team members from time to time, including Spider-Man, who also ends up as a zombie in the Marvel Zombieverse. Anyways, driven by hunger, She-Hulk used these codes to get into the building and devour Franklin and Valeria. When Sue Storm arrived back at the tower, she sought revenge on She-Hulk for what she had done, and used her force field powers to blow off Jennifer's head. What a way to go. Number 7. Old Man Logan. I know where y'all think I'm going with this, but I promise I'm not going there this time. You've all been through enough when it comes to us talking about She-Hulk in the Old Man Logan alternate universe. So here, instead, I'm going to talk about the fact that in Old Man Logan, it's revealed that She-Hulk was one of the few heroes left standing, fighting alongside Moon Knight and Daredevil. We see this in Old Man Logan Volume 2, Issue 8, and She-Hulk is a powerhouse in this alternate universe. During the supervillain takeover, she was one of the few supers left that survived. So yeah, I mean, she went on to mate with her cousin in this universe as well, but before that, she was one of the last few heroes standing between chaos and order. Epic. Number 6. Dr. Walters. In the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, the same universe that Earth 616 Jennifer Walters once argued in a cosmic court of law was not better than its 616 counterpart, we have Dr. Jennifer Walters. Dr. Walters was working on the Super Soldier Serum program with S.H.I.E.L.D. She produced a version of the Hulk serum that would not induce a fit of rage during the transformation process. Betty Ross convinced General Fury that Dr. Walters was aiming to steal the formula and sell it off herself to the Chinese, but it turned out that the deal Jen was making with the Chinese was surrounding buying a pre-release copy of the Star Trek film, illegally for 10 grand. I think I love this gene splicing obsessed version of Jen so much because she's just such a huge Trekkie. Oh, and in the Ultimate Universe, it ends up being Betty Ross that steals the formula to become She-Hulk and saves Bruce Banner. So yeah, green She-Hulk too, not even red She-Hulk.
Number 5. Hulk 2099. John Eisenhart this time around made his first appearance in 2099 Unlimited Issue 1 back in 1993. This is the future, of course, one of many alternate Marvel futures where heroes are simply no more. But fear not, as we still have cults. Thank God, you gotta have those cults. One cult called the Knights of Banner was piquing the interest of Eisenhart, but at this point, he was this LA movie studio guy and he wanted to make a movie about these knights or this Hulk cult or whatever. They're pretty much us in the future. They worship the Hulk, they have meetings, they talk about him, they probably create top 10 lists, I don't know. But when they turned down the money and said beat it, Eisenhart wasn't happy. So he tricked one of the young members, Gawain, into spilling the beans about the cult and how they're performing illegal gamma experiments. Gawain is actually a reference to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, an Arthurian story that combined the beheading game and the exchange of winnings. And that's exactly what happened here. John reported this cult and its new secrets, and the police raided and killed everybody. All but Gawain. So John tried to fix what he'd caused, but it was far too late. After a gamma bomb went off, he was turned into the 2099 Hulk. Consumed now with guilt as well, he vowed to protect the young knight, and when Draco killed Gawain, spoilers, he figured he would just defend the people from future threats. Number 4. Compound Hulk. First appearing in Hulk Volume 2, Issue 30, Clue is a smarter version of that Grey Hulk that I mentioned earlier in this list. He's an advanced clone, rather, created by Xemnu. Now, Clue was the result of a cloning gone wrong, classic, and then when Clue and Xemnu were fighting Red Hulk, Impossible Man came in, he was watching the whole thing, and he used his powers to merge both of those guys into the compound Clue. He didn't last long at all, but anytime the words merge and Hulk are in play, it's bound to get weird. Number 3. Venom Hulk. Venom Hulk is as terrifying as you think. It all goes down in What If Issue 4. It shows us what would happen if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man. So if the Fantastic Four hadn't have been able to separate Peter and the suit initially. It's a fun little alternative. It gets pretty ugly quickly, and the other Avengers are called upon to try and stop Peter from causing more irreversible damage. Doctor Strange is hurling spells at him for hours, still it's no use. And you'd think when the Hulk came along, he could just, huck Peter into a few walls until he calms down. But he arrives, and the the symbiote sees his power and he's like, that looks pretty good. I want that, give me. And then when it comes into contact with the Hulk, this nightmare is born. When Thor comes in to hopefully try and end this disaster of a situation, he too is consumed by the symbiote. I really hope we get to see some sort of evil version of the Hulk in this What If Disney show. I mean, Venom Hulk would be amazing. I would love to see this issue on TV. Might be a little long shot, but maybe Grey Hulk perhaps. I don't know. Some sort of evil Hulk is coming, I feel it. Number 2, Lizard Hulk. Still green this time around, just a little more wet and scaly. He comes from Earth 19919. Robert Banner, of course, has a similar origin as the Hulk that we're now familiar with, only he was infected by the spider virus in Spider Island issue 1. So a little more this time around. Now he's got extra arms and he's even more powerful. Just what you want. The Spider Queen at this point is standing tall over Manhattan with the residents of New York City turning into spiders, which I gotta say, worst thing I've ever heard. I feel itchy just reading that. And as for our heroes, it's probably best if they switch to a different animal's DNA to avoid the whole mind control Spider Queen awful situation. So Captain America gets a hairy upgrade and the Hulk gets paired with some lizard DNA, resulting in a weird but exciting storyline. Major Godzilla vibes over here. And finally, number 1, you guessed it, Old Man Logan. Remember that time that the Hulk was a landlord and had Hulklings with his cousin Jen Walters? Let's talk about it. Old Man Logan is an absolute masterpiece, first of all. Created by Mark Miller and Steve McNiven, we get to see a dark future where supervillains have taken over the United States. Bruce Banner ended up taking over California from Abomination and appropriately named it Hulkland. An atomic bomb over California changed Bruce up, he charged him, and now he wasn't this quirky scientist that you know and love. Now he's kind of a dick. Hulk Gang is also a treat. We have in total Bobby Joe, Charlie, Otis, Rufus, Bo, Elrod, Eustace, and of course Woody. Good old Woody Banner, what a gem. They come knocking on your door when you don't pay rent. Yeah, and you thought your landlord sucked. Think again. They're honestly evil, like they're literally evil. They killed Logan's family because they felt like it. They were bored. They whip around in style with the fantastic car, and then when Logan returned from his road trip with Hawkeye, well, he was a little upset to say the least. The only survivor once Logan was done with them was Billy Bob Banner.
Number 10, Bruce Banner, Earth 12091. Now, not a whole lot is known about this alternate universe, but they do have a pretty crazy looking Hulk nonetheless. In this reality, Bruce Banner was mutated into the Hulk by undergoing some gamma radiation experimentation, so pretty standard so far, but his appearance is vastly different than the Hulk that we're familiar with. This Hulk is like an electric green color and is a bit more risque because he doesn't wear any clothes, which is okay I guess because he's got kind of, Ken doll in it if you know what I mean. Not to mention that he has 4 absolutely massive arms, effectively making him twice as strong as any other Hulk. After this transformation, he gained the reputation for destroying spaceships, and any attempts to stop him by Thunderbolt Ross were always thwarted. He attacked the hideout of Barracuda when the Punisher tried to gain information about the 6-fingered hand, and he killed a decent amount of the mercenaries hired to kill the Punisher, but was enraged by the leader's sonic device. The Punisher managed to escape before the Hulk could kill him, which you can assume he could have done very easily. Check out this monstrous Hulk for yourself in his first appearance in 2012 Space Punisher number 2. Number 9, Skulk. Hailing from Earth 9602, the Amalgam universe, Bruce Banner was a scientist experimenting with radiation, and one day an experiment he was working on went horribly wrong and fused him with the elemental entity known as Solomon Grundy, and he became known as the Skulk. With the powers of the Hulk and Solomon Grundy combined, you can probably figure out for yourself why this would be pretty scary. After a confrontation with Dr. Strange Fate showed Skulk that he could keep the Skulk in his human form with the use of magic. The Skulk agreed to work as an agent for Dr. Strange Fate in return for Strange Fate keeping Skulk in the form of Bruce Banner for most of the time. This version of the Hulk is actually a rather gentle soul because upon finding access, Bruce actually tried to have a conversation with him rather than immediately jumping into battle because he thought that Access seemed like a really lost and lonely child in the world. This didn't last for long though because it did get to the point where he transformed into the Skulk and attacked him with just plain old brute force. Skip ahead a little bit to a mysterious villain attacking the Amalgam Earth city by city, and Lobo the Duck awoke in the ruins of Manhattan and found himself as the last remaining survivor among the heroes. Now the Skulk's body was never actually found among the other heroes, but it can be assumed that he is no longer living. Check out this character for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 1996's Doctor Strange Fate number 1. Number 8, The Incredible Thing. In an alternate reality, Earth 295 to be exact, Bruce Banner never actually became the Hulk and mutants rule the world. In an effort to combat them, Bruce, under the order of Thaddeus Ross, is tasked with creating an army of super soldiers. However, all of his efforts fail. Banner moves to Europe not too long after and becomes a member of the Human High Council, the ruling body of the surviving human population. Oddly enough, Banner longed to become a mutant in order to escape being a second-class citizen, and caving into the moral low ground, Banner sold himself to one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse in order to experiment on mutants and eventually himself. The result of the experiment was the Thing, a Grey Hulk variant that Banner could revert between at will. Ben Grimm and Sue Storm were the first to encounter the Thing, and Sue shot him in the side of the head. The Thing fled and turned back into Banner, but neither Sue nor Ben connected the two events together. Fast forward a little bit to when Bruce, alongside Tony Stark, is escaping the Earth's orbit, and we see humanity under fire from a bunch of missiles. They were able to destroy all except for one, an adamantium bomb that Bruce had invented himself. So, as the Thing, he jumped out of the spacecraft and diverted the bomb so that no one would have to die from it. Forcibly reverting back to his human form, he fell down to Earth and was captured by Apocalypse. After an unidentified period of time, he revolts against the Alphas and Apocalypse, but sadly this ended in his death. Check out this Bruce Banner for yourself in 1995's X-Universe number 1. Number 7. Infernal Hulk. Are you familiar with Earth 11,638? It is an alternate universe that is seemingly a utopia because Spider-Man's loved ones are still alive, and Bruce Banner finally separated from the Hulk, and Wade Wilson never had to become Deadpool. However, he did end up becoming the villain Deathmask, but we'll just sort of, gloss over that one. After Bruce Banner became Dr. Banner, the Sorcerer Supreme of this universe, he separated himself from the Hulk and banished him to Hell, where he became the Infernal Hulk. When the Bruce Banner of Earth 616 traveled to this universe with Spider-Man and Deadpool, the Infernal Hulk was able to get free from Hell by trading places with the Hulk persona of Earth 616's Banner. He immediately went after Bruce, who was saved by Spider-Man and Deadpool. Together with his counterpart, Spider-Man and Deadpool, the Sorcerer Supreme Banner came up with a plan to defeat the Infernal Hulk once and for all by reversing the banishing spell and then snapping Bruce's neck before the Infernal Hulk could take control of his body. Check out this devilish Hulk for yourself in their first appearance in 2011's Deadpool Annual number 1. Number 6. John Eisenhart. On Earth 928, the alternate Earth that is set in 2099, and it is a vastly different world than we are familiar with because the Age of the Heroes has ended and much of the world is run by violent and evil companies. Head over to Los Angeles and we meet John Eisenhart, the Hulk of 2099. John gained his Hulk-like abilities from the Knights of Banner, a cult that worshipped the original Hulk, who wanted nothing more than to create a new Hulk. Their Gamma gun accidentally fired and hit John, and he was transformed into a 12-foot tall Gamma Beast with razor-sharp claws and fangs, a long tongue, and massive muscles. Hulk 2099 dedicated himself to defending the people from monsters like Draco and became a leader in a rebellion against them. After President Victor Von Doom's takeover of America, John stole a Gamma device from one of Doom's henchmen in order to keep it from Doom himself. Now this device was similar to the one that granted John the ability to transform into his Hulk-like form in the first place. Draco threatened John with a massive bomb placed directly on the city's fault line if he didn't turn the Gamma device over to him. In the ensuing battle, the bomb detonated and triggered a massive earthquake, and the earthquake set off the Gamma device that resulted in a massive explosion laying waste to the city. John emerged from the rubble, mutated even more so by the radiation emitted from the device. His mutation eventually did stabilize and he returned to his original form just prior to S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arriving in the region. While battling them, John seemed to perish, and well, that's the last that we've seen of him. Give his story a read for yourself in 1993's 2099 Unlimited number 1.
Number 5. Old Man Hulk. In the Old Man Logan storyline, Hulk was actually a villain. Traitor. Alongside Dr. Doom, Magneto, and Abomination, he actually ends up being the final villain for the story. He ended up having kids with none other than his own cousin, Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. Okay, interesting choice. Well, it's because she couldn't be poisoned by the radiation, so it made sense to do it, I guess. After they had referred to themselves as Hulk Gang, what up? Some members of the family ended up killing Wolverine's family. Not a good idea. So retired Old Man Logan Wolverine got pissed and killed basically everybody except Old Banner and one young offspring. Banner then turns into a very large, very angry monster and swallows Wolverine whole. That's right, he eats him. See, normally you would think that's the end of it, but that is until Wolverine cut through him from the inside and broke free, killing Old Man Hulk in the process. I don't know who I'd rather be in that situation. Like, would you rather be swallowed by a Hulk, or would you rather swallow a sharp Old Man Logan? Both sound unpleasant. Number 4. War Hulk. In X-Men Apocalypse, we caught a glimpse at the Horsemen. Apocalypse surrounded himself with the likes of Storm, Cyclops, Gambit, and Archangel before going for Magneto himself. But what if he recruited the Hulk? Well, that's exactly what sort of happened in the Onslaught storyline. After the Hulk and Banner split into two separate units and were on different Earths, so the angry green guy ended up being recruited to serve as War, thus giving us War Hulk. This version is a treat. So Apocalypse added to his already terrifying set of skills. The Beast was unstoppable at this point. Even Apocalypse had to put a cap on what he was able to do because, well, I mean, look at him. Times like these, I really wish Marvel had all the rights to their Fox characters. As much as I love Days of Future Past, this would have been a great way to mix up Banner's storyline in the MCU drastically. Eventually, we got to see this Beast version of Hulk in Thor Ragnarok based on the storyline none other than number 3, Planet Hulk. Arguably the best scene from Thor Ragnarok is when Hulk is the champion of the arena at Sakaar. Once Thor realizes that this is not the same Hulk he had worked with in previous Avengers movies, he had to really put up a fight, and it was awesome to see. To see those two battle it out again after their 2012 Avengers fight, what a ride. This plot comes from the Planet Hulk storyline. So after the Illuminati decided he's too much of a threat to Earth, they send him off on a mission to destroy a rogue satellite. Survey says that was a lie. They were actually intending to send him off to a peaceful planet. But wormholes exist, so the trip went south and Hulk ended up landing on Sakaar, where he is forced to fight for the planet's emperor, the Red King, which in the movie was actually the Grandmaster, played by the most handsome man on the planet, Jeff Goldblum. And if you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, do yourself a favor and go watch it twice. Hulk plus weapons equals scary. Number 2, World War Hulk. In the sequel to Planet Hulk, Hulk heads to New York City and gives the Illuminati, which is Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Reed Richards, an ultimatum to turn themselves in. The Hulk blames them for the death of his pregnant wife, so he's not too patient. He gives them 24 hours before he would then destroy Manhattan. That's the scariest thing. Imagine seeing that on the news. You're like, can we go? Can we get the hell out of here? Literally nobody can stop him. Doctor Strange even got in his head and tried to talk him down, and it of course does not work. Iron Man attempts to level the Beast with his Hulkbuster armor, but we all know how that would go. It fails. For a guy who gets stronger the angrier he gets, this is quite the event. I feel like this would have been a great on-screen plot as well. I mean, if Banner had come back from Sakaar still angry and out of control, who knows what he would have done to the Avengers? Especially if Nat wasn't around? Oh boy. And finally, number 1, Amadeus Cho. Making his debut in Amazing Fantasy Volume 2, number 15, Korean-American raised in Arizona, Amadeus Cho participated in a quiz show named Brain Fight. How fitting. At just the age of 15, Amadeus won that quiz show. He won $5,000 while being deemed the 7th smartest man in the world. Not a bad title at all. I think I'm like number 9, maybe 10, I don't know. 11? Really? Okay. The organizer of the quiz show is none other than Pythagoras Dupree. He was the 6th smartest man in the world and basically just wanted to find the biggest brain and take out the competition. Pythagoras sent out a squad of goons to kill Amadeus. Barely escaping, he ran away and then he met the Incredible Hulk. Years later, Amadeus would eventually become totally awesome Hulk. See, he got stuck with a dangerous amount of radiation that should have made him go mad, but instead he used special nanites to absorb the Hulk's powers. Nice. He took pride in trying to be a better, smarter Hulk. What a good guy, what a good kid, rather. At one point, he actually exiled himself into space on a satellite, just so he could study himself and make sure he still has the ability to control everything that's going on. Number 10, Grey Hulk. So, once upon a time, Stan Lee actually wanted the Hulk to be gray, initially. But due to ink and production problems, he ended up turning out green. It was explained in the comics by saying that, because of Bruce Banner's repetitive use of the gamma radiation projectors, the character's skin color went from being gray to green. Because they wanted him to be green. He was green, then he was gray, then he was green. It was out there. How do we make this a thing? Interesting little tidbit, but the Grey Hulk is still a character not to be messed with. The Grey Hulk and the Green Hulk are pretty much battling each other in Banner's mind at this point. So they give the Grey Hulk a different identity, referring to him from this point on as Joe Fixit. Joe Fixit was this tough, ambiguous security guard who worked at a casino in Las Vegas. Real butch guy. So opposed to Savage Hulk, Grey Hulk doesn't get mad as fast. He's actually pretty intelligent and pretty manipulative as well. He doesn't lose control that easily. Still a badass nonetheless, but he's got a hand on the wheel. Grey Hulk would then come out at night and then go back to normal by dawn. This is because Bruce was literally afraid of the dark, so the Grey Hulk represented more of that brain space in Banner's head, you know? Like imagine bumping into this guy during a late night walk. I would puke, straight up. So scary. He could also drive a car too, which is amazing. So if you're like, me, who doesn't have his license still as an adult, just remember that Grey Hulk is probably better at parallel parking than us. How do you feel, guys? How do you feel? Number 9, Green Hulk. Okay, going off the notes from the gray ink complete debacle. When the Green Hulk was introduced later on, it wasn't that different than we saw from the Grey Hulk. So instead of the Hulk coming out at night, they decided to just go the route where we're all familiar with, mean and green. He started to pop up in other character comic books before eventually getting his own issues. I had to include this version as he is the next version after Grey Hulk. It's kind of hard not to. What do you guys think? Would you rather see more of the Grey Hulk who comes out at night and just kicks rocks and mumbles and gets all angry looking like Frankenstein's monster? Or do you prefer the green guy, pops out in the middle of the day if Bruce Banner gets stung by a bee and then just starts punching? I personally love the gray guy. What a route to go. Number 8, Red She-Hulk. So on part 1 of this list, I had mentioned She-Hulk, but what about Red She-Hulk? Yep, that's a thing too. So this mysterious character showed up when the Red Hulk gathered a team to hunt down Domino. So while Wolverine was fighting Red Hulk, he like scratched his eyes out, ouch, and just as he was about to finish him, bam, Red She-Hulk comes in to save the day. And she's pretty fierce too, like look at her. Like right off the bat when she was fighting Wolverine, she was showing off her fancy new outfit that belonged to Domino, including her gun. And then in her other hand, she also had Elektra's sai. So she came loaded. And then she started bragging about how she killed the two and took their weapons and clothes. So yeah, she's a bit of a hot mess, you would say. She held off the fight long enough for Red Hulk to recover. Her powers are pretty nuts though. I mean, during this scrap with Wolverine, she spat in his face. Gross. Only her saliva is acid. So she grabbed Red Hulk and they both ducked out in the sewers. Unbeknownst to Red Hulk until later on, the identity of the new mysterious red badass is actually none other than Betty Ross. Plot twist. Her Red She-Hulk story begins in Hulk Volume 2, Issue 15, if you want to start giving her from the beginning. Number 7, Ultimate Hulk. Yeah, this version is just a touch different than the versions that we're used to. See, this version was used for the films Ultimate Avengers and Ultimate Avengers 2. The only real difference is that the Avengers end up controlling the Hulk in our current MCU. More or less. Like by the time Avengers 1 reaches its final act, they're all cool and they work together. He's like, yeah, that's my secret. I'm always angry. Then they all give a thumbs up. In this version, they battle the Chitauri, but they have a much harder time retaining the Beast. He actually fights all of them first, and in this storyline, he even lifts Mjolnir. So if Cap lifting the hammer wasn't good enough, get a load of this guy. Starting with Ultimate Marvel Team Up, issue number 2, that is. Number 6, Mark Ruffalo. That's right, I'm gonna talk about this version for a bit longer because we're probably the most familiar with it. Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. It's a classic. As seen in all the Avenger movies, this Hulk goes crazy a handful of times, most notably the fact that he's clashed with pretty much every Avenger except Captain America. He took on Natasha in the first Avengers, and that is until Thor came in to have a go, and I like that in the MCU we see character arcs not only with Bruce Banner, but for the Hulk as well. Like for example, after he fights Iron Man in the Hulkbuster armor in Avengers Age of Ultron, the second he snaps out of Wanda's curse, you can see on the Hulk's face that he's disappointed in himself. That's a huge difference from when we last saw him in the previous Avengers movie. The Hulk, not Banner, right? This was long before he ended up merging in Endgame, so to see this soft moment with him is actually really nice, especially after he just, destroyed an entire city. And you can also see growth with himself and Natasha early on. I mean, at the beginning of Age of Ultron, Nat calms him down. It's funny, whenever my buddy Dan gets mad about stuff, I always touch his hand and I go, hey big guy, sun's getting real low, right? Let's calm it down, let's pack it in. I won't lie, the second Smart Hulk was revealed in Avengers Endgame, I kind of hated it right off the bat. I was like, they're going for a silly take on the character just to make the theater laugh. That wasn't the case though. Mark Ruffalo actually did a great job combining the two for that movie, especially in a finale piece like that movie. He actually finds this nice line to be intimidating and beastly at the same time. So he's like a jolly green giant. My favorite part has to be when he talks Thor into returning to the gang. Such a nice arc. I mean, it's good fun all around, except for, all the death and destruction that happened.
Number 5, Ruins. In the Ruins reality of Earth 9591, the Hulk isn't quite as fantastical or as fabulous as our 616 version of the characters. So fabulous. Runes is a series that allows us to get a glimpse of an alternate reality where superpowers are more like curses or death sentences, more realistic to how things might actually go for those who received them in the real world, like the Hulk. Here, Bruce Banner does rush onto the Gamma Bomb test site in an attempt to protect Rick Jones, who wandered onto the testing grounds. However, he doesn't gain a giant, super strong and all green persona as a result. Instead, he becomes riddled with multiplying green tumors, which ultimately tear him apart from the inside out, mutating him into something much more horrific to behold. It's both weird and terrifying. Number 4, 1,000 Hulks. What if there wasn't just one Hulk, but multiple Hulks? Hundreds of Hulks, if you will. That is a reality we explore in the alternate reality belonging to issue 71 of the second volume of What If. In that issue, we get to explore a world where gamma bombs end up being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and transforms hundreds of people. This actually gives the people of Japan a powerful army of Hulks, which allows them to conquer the US and rule over them for years. While one Hulk is already pretty strange, living in a reality where there are multiple Hulks who created a Hulk army seems even more bizarre by comparison. Number 3, Orange Hulk. Maybe one of the most random alternates out there. Orange Hulk hails from the reality of Age of Apocalypse. Unlike the other version we talked about way earlier on this list, Orange Hulk has no attachment to Bruce Banner, and as a matter of fact, we don't actually know who he really is under all that orange and all that Hulk. What we do know is that Orange Hulk is solar powered, gaining strength from the sun, and is in fact implied to be stronger during daylight hours because of this. Orange Hulk serves on Weapon Omega's Black Legion team, and honestly, every time I see him, he makes me want some Sunny D. That's not any kind of paid endorsement, to be clear, that's just the truth. Also, I just really like Sunny D. Number 2, Groovy Hulk. Groovy Hulk is the nickname for the alternate version of the Hulk that we get from the original What If series. In issue 12 of the series, we get to discover what the world would be like had Rick Jones become the Hulk instead of Bruce Banner, with Rick Jones throwing Banner into the trench at the last second instead of the other way around, taking the full brunt of the gamma radiation himself. Oh no, Rick Jones! Rick's version of the Hulk had a notably cooler way of speaking, being heavily influenced by the groovy slang of the 60s. I suppose because Rick was a young and hip teenager, so that's how he talks instead of the other way that the Hulk talks. And that's not even the weirdest part about this whole story. It also comes with a convenient ending where Bruce Banner finds a way to fix Rick, causing him and the Hulk to split. Hulk is stuck in the negative zone but finds happiness and a girlfriend randomly there, becoming their champion, while Captain Marvel is also affected by Banner's cure for Rick, being tied to him as well. The treatment also happens to cure Marvel's cancer. Gotta love a weird cure-all happy ending. Number 1, the Hulk dogs. What is weirder than 1,000 Hulks? How about a few doggo Hulks? That's right, I did not forget about 2003 Hulk. In that film, there were 3 dog versions of the Hulk, each dog a member of a different breed, that were made by David Banner, Bruce's father. One of them is a poodle. Just remember that. David planned to use the dogs to track down and kill Betty Ross. This of course put them into direct conflict with the Hulk himself, who is forced to fight all 3 dogs, who honestly kinda almost succeed in defeating him at one point and getting to Betty. Of course, in the end, Hulk saves Betty and ends up winning. I'm just thinking of how Betty's like, what do I do? Do I go? Do I stay? There's so many shots of her just in the car like, the dogs are still here. It kills me. Okay, anyways. Oh, 2003 Hulk. Of course, in the end, Hulk saves Betty and ends up winning out against all 3 Hulk doggos. Poor Hulk dogs. They didn't deserve that.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Grey Hulk. One of the more badass versions of the Hulk was also the earliest. See, originally Stan Lee wanted the Hulk to be grey, but ink problems made him green. The Incredible Hulk made his first smashing appearance in 1962 when a teenager Rick Jones was about to be caught up in a gamma bomb test. Scientist Bruce Banner ran out and threw him to safety, but in doing so he himself was caught in said explosion, and in turn he was irradiated with radioactive particles, becoming the Grey Hulk. Our green guy, the main 616 Hulk, is referred to as the Savage Hulk, and Grey Hulk is said to be weaker. They made him an entirely different version in the comics to help explain the color change. They were both fighting to control Bruce. Things get spicy during Peter David's run when we meet Joe Fixit, this mobster Grey Hulk working at a casino. Imagine this guy asking you for your ID. I would bring 5 pieces and a passport, just to be safe. So intimidating. And his hat too, like he looks friendly, but he also looks like when he shakes your hand, he's gonna break all your knuckles. Number 9, Skulk. Coming to life in Doctor Strange Fate issue 1 back in 1996, Marvel's Bruce Banner combined with DC's Solomon Grundy. How fun. Another grey version, but a little more out there this time around. Solomon appeared right before Bruce Banner was caught in that gamma bomb explosion, so now the two ended up fusing together, creating Skulk. Skulk was taught by Dr. Strangefate that in order to remain in human form, you need the assistance of magic. Black Widow's palm dances will not work in this universe, my friend. So Banner was like, alright, I'll work for you, just make sure I don't become that awful pale monster. Deal? Deal. Great, awesome. Skulk's last comic was in Lobo the Duck, issue 1, just a year later. He died in the destruction caused by the Gold Kidney Lady. Yes, you heard me correctly. And before we list off some other fun versions of the Hulk, if you want to Skulk smash that like button, that would be lovely. Those clicks really do help us out a lot here. You all rock, now let's keep this list going. Number 8, Peter Parker. Looking now to the 2006 bullet point storyline, if you haven't already guessed from the title, this one's a superhero swap. We love those. Now this is a life where Uncle Ben, well, still died, but he died a lot earlier, so unfortunately he wasn't around to mentor Peter. Give him the whole with great power comes great responsibility rundown. So now Peter's stealing Jeeps, he's blasting Green Day and flipping off the elderly, just the complete opposite guy that we know and love. During the Jeep joyride, it ran out of gas, so Sneaky Pete went off to look for some more to help fill up. Now while he was searching, that's when he just happened to stumble across that gamma bomb test, and he didn't realize that he had this Hulk side to him until later on that night. His friends got in trouble, so they blamed Peter, and that's when he got really angry, and then he turned into the Hulk for the first time. It was nuts. Aunt May straight up had a heart attack. More than fair. After this point, retired Steve Rogers came back, suited up as Iron Man, and then began hunting him down. This universe is crazy. Peter Hulk killed Steve Rogers, and he didn't go down until Galactus arrived on Earth. Not a bad run. Number 7, Ultimate Hulk. This version of Bruce is quite troubled. He was taught to just stay out of his parents' way growing up, and he also hated himself pretty much. He wanted to be ripped like Captain America, he didn't like his noodle arms. It was a rough go for him in the Ultimate Universe. So when Nick Fury got together the brightest minds to recreate the super soldier serum, Envious Banner was on that team. He did figure it out, or so he thought, but he kept the info to himself. He didn't want any other scientist getting credit. But he took it a little bit too far when he also decided to keep the human testing process to himself as well. He injected himself and became Ultimate Hulk. The first time he changed, he injured Mary and Richard Parker, but down the road he injected himself again, but this time he mixed super soldier serum with Hulk serum, and then he turned gray, and his first plan of attack was, of course, as you would think, to fight Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah. Number 6, Infernal Hulk. First appearing in Deadpool Annual 1, this version picks up after Bruce Banner became the Sorcerer Supreme, and his first trick was to separate the Hulk from himself and just banish him as far away as possible. And what better place to throw him than the pits of hell? While in the land down under, Hulk became Infernal Hulk. A little more scary looking than Joe Fixit, just a little bit. So when our 616 Banner arrived to this universe with Spider-Man, Infernal Hulk traded places in hell with the other Bruce's Hulk persona. So now that Infernal Hulk is free and he's going back after Banner, he's pissed. So Deadpool, Spidey, and Supreme Banner, they all figured, okay, let's just reverse this banishing spell, and then as soon as Banner shows back up, we break his neck. Alright, go team, let's do it. Number 5, Betty Ross, She-Hulk. While Jen Walters is known as the badass lawyer cousin of Bruce who also likes to get big and green and punchy, Betty Ross has also held the mantle of one of Earth's mightiest. Coming again from the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610, Betty Ross made her first appearance in Ultimates issue 3, and she's the daughter of General Ross, and she was actually roommates with Janet Van Dyne in college. So Janet started seeing Hank Pym, that guy who's not the best at all, and then Betty started to date Bruce Banner. Now as she watched Banner turn into the Hulk and smash things around, she actually grew to like him even more. Maybe she's into the bad boys, who knows? And then later on, Bruce had been out on trial and given the death sentence, being the Hulk and all. He got into some trouble, and she was just devastated. So at this point, Jennifer Walters comes into the picture, but not as another version of the Hulk, not as She-Hulk. No, she comes in because she cracked the code on the serum at this point. She figured it out. So Betty lied to Nick Fury and said that Jennifer Walters was actually planning on selling that serum, but really she was just pirating the new Star Trek early. Which isn't nearly as bad as selling a super serum. So Betty herself ended up injecting the serum right before jumping out of a shield jet, and then she landed on the ground, and now she announced that she is Plan B. We love a cool superhero entrance. So Betty fought Wolverine and actually managed to gouge his eyes out, which, not too shabby. Wolverine ended up winning in the long run, so now Betty is forced to wear a necklace that would choke her if she turned bigger and turned into the Hulk. Some of these stories are fun, some of them are just tragic. Betty's story is mostly tragic in this sense. Number 4, Red Hulk. He made his first appearance in the Incredible Hulk issue 1 as General Ross, but come the first issue of volume 2, Ross goes beast mode. he becomes one of the Hulk's greatest threats. He becomes the Red Hulk. Now, Red Hulk was created using gamma radiation, just like our Hulk, but what makes him even more of a menace is the fact that he also has cosmic rays added to that aggressive mix. Now, the Red Hulk doesn't get stronger the angrier he gets like Bruce does, he actually gets hotter. He physically gets hotter, he starts to burn up. During one of their first run-ins with the Red Hulk, when the two Goliaths were battling it out, the sand around them while they were fighting actually turned into glass. That's how hot the Red Hulk had gotten. And when there's more glass, that just means there's more things to break. Number 3, the End Hulk. Written by Peter David, The Incredible Hulk The End shows us what Bruce Banner would look like after the rest of the world had fallen. So what happens when Bruce is the last thing alive, no thanks to his superpower? Well, in a one-shot released in 2002, we get the answer to that question. So after the events of this big nuclear fallout, Banner was the only person left alive, and the story opens up with Banner talking to just a vidbot, this floating camera that's always hovering 10 feet away from him. It's like the world's saddest vlog squad. It had found Banner when it was in the middle of confirming the eradication of humans, so now it follows him around forever, just waiting to see what happens. So Banner and the Hulk are on different levels at this point. The Hulk still wants to be a badass and fight things, but Bruce is done. He's tapped out. He looks around him and he sees giant mutated cockroaches, like, ew! He doesn't want anything to do with this planet anymore. He's done. He doesn't want to be alive anymore. But the Hulk, number 2, Infernal Hulk. In an alternate reality where Bruce Banner and the Hulk had separated, yes, it happens quite often, Bruce ended up becoming the new Sorcerer Supreme, which sounds like the improvement of a lifetime, but it's kind of not. And as for the Hulk side, oh, he gets cast into hell. Gone. Just right down below. Not as bright and optimistic, that's for sure. He makes his mark in Deadpool Annual Issue 1, and when the Hulk spends enough time in hell, he's bound to change, and I mean probably for the worse. He becomes the Infernal Hulk. And when Spider-Man and normal green version of Banner come from a parallel universe, the only way he's defeated is when he's tricked to destroy the Eye of Agamotto, which in turn banishes him back down to the underworld. So he's just destined for hell at this point. And finally, number 1, Joe Fixit Grey Hulk. Back in the day, Stan Lee actually wanted the Hulk to be gray, but due to ink and production problems, it ended up turning out green. Luckily, I mean, that's all we're used to now. Imagine if this guy was gray this whole time, that'd be kind of weird. So our first look back in 1962 at the Hulk was actually this gray version. Now, it was explained in the comics that basically because of Bruce Banner's repetitive use of the gamma radiation projectors, the character's skin went from being gray to green. So it made sense in the story. Now, the Gray Hulk and the Green Hulk are pretty much battling each other in Banner's mind. So they give the Grey Hulk a different identity now by referring to him as Joe Fixit, this tough, big, bad security guard who works at a casino in Las Vegas. Now, Grey Hulk doesn't get mad as fast. He's actually pretty intelligent and quite manipulative, which makes him even more of a threat. Now, the Grey Hulk would often come out at night, and then he'd go back to normal by dawn, which is just a nightmare. Imagine seeing this guy in the middle of the night, you're just walking to your car, and you're like, is that the Hulk? Why is he wearing a suit? Why is he shuffling cards? What is this dude? There have been rumors that the Grey Hulk will make an appearance in the She-Hulk Disney Plus show. I mean, we saw Grey Vision, so now a Grey Hulk? Huh, how lucky are we? Too soon. That one felt like it was too